6:30, we'll call our special work session from June 1st to order. Quorum, we are all here. Our public forum is temporarily suspended due to the COVID things going on. Bill discussion. Does anyone have any questions with items in the bills? Don't have any questions with those? Any questions with consent agenda items? If we have none there, council informational only items. Governor's executive order from our May 18th meeting. Councilmember Lundberg.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure why this is on tonight's agenda because it seems like it was taken care of in a different way. But as you may recall, at our last meeting, I brought up an email that we'd received from Jeff and Michelle Wallvogel, and it was about the resolution passed by the city of Oak Grove regarding the governor's stay-home orders, along with the suggestion that our city follow suit to get our city moving again. As you can see in the letter, the city of Oak Grove considers the governor's executive orders to be unconstitutional. The reason I brought it up was neither because I believe in it or agree with it or that I don't agree with it. I brought it up because I thought it was important for the council to discuss it, to talk it over. It was not on the agenda, and to me, it felt like the decision was made against it just by simply not placing it on the agenda. Where was I? Okay, so on May 19th, we all received an email which included a resolution drafted by our attorneys urging the governor to reopen all Minnesota business. And we also received information from the League of Minnesota Cities, which included questions and answers regarding the governor's stay-home orders. A lot of the answers included the word maybe or not necessarily, and cities were urged to consider all of the implications. And I'll add here that the council wasn't given the opportunity to consider any implications because on May 29th, we received a copy of the letter that our mayor had sent to the governor. It was a great letter. The issue I have with it is that the council president and the mayor acted without input from the council. We got a letter showing us the resolution, and then 10 days later we got another email showing us the letter that had been sent. And I think that this is something that should have been discussed by the council. And that's the reason that I brought it up in the first place, was that I thought it was something that should be discussed by the council. And now it's like I'm not even really sure why it's on the agenda because it's already been acted on without discussion from the council. It feels like, I don't know, you throwing me a bone to make me feel like I had something to say. Because now that the letter to the governor has been sent, the point is moot. Again, the council didn't have the opportunity to make this decision together. It was just decided, and it was just sent. And I guess that's what I was trying to say in the first place 2 weeks ago when I brought up the letter from the Wallvogels.
Mr. President, if I could just comment briefly. Raquel, I understand your concerns. When we met to plan the previous agenda, Brad and John and I had talked about getting a couple of examples for the council to choose from. John wasn't able to get them from our attorney. So that's why the discussion we had on that night. And then after hearing everybody speak, that they had some concerns that we didn't do anything, and the fact that by the next meeting it could all been taken care of. I asked Brad if he would be comfortable co-signing with me It's my fault. I started it. And I found something that our attorneys agreed to, the league agreed to, and my understanding from the council was they were upset that we did not send a letter. So I'm guilty as charged, and I'm not gonna claim executive privilege because of emergency orders. I don't know if that could even be part of it. I thought what I did was right on behalf of the council. That's why I did not say Little Falls City Council. It was Representative Lee and President Hercock. And if anybody else sends one on their own, I guess that's up to you. But there was no ill malice from the start at all, because we had that agreement regarding bringing one to the last time. We did not receive anything, and that's why it was not, I didn't think it was right to try to have 8 people try to craft one during a meeting. So if I offended you, I apologize, but I still think it was the right thing to do.
We didn't want to wait until after this meeting to send something.
Well, we had an emergency meeting in the meantime. It could have been dealt with at that meeting.
Was that scheduled at the time, Raquel? Was the emergency meeting scheduled when that was
No,
sent in?
that's scheduled till after.
Right.
Yeah, Council President?
Yes,
I
please.
mean, just clarity of timeline, the emergency meeting was called after the governor's executive order, which allowed for opening outdoor businesses like bars and restaurants, and that came after the letter was sent. I'll take some onus on getting that letter to you, the council. I should have done that right away. I just an oversight on my part with things going on, so I'll take responsibility in that. That should have went to you as soon as it was going to the governor. So.
I didn't know that the letter had been sent until May 29th, which was just a few days ago. So that was after the emergency meeting. But I don't know, I guess the whole reason I brought up the whole thing, the letter that the Waldvogel sent, was because I thought that it warranted discussion. And now it's too late for that discussion, so, because it's already been acted on, but it's been, it wasn't acted on in the same way that the Waldvogels intended it, which was to say that the governor's orders were unconstitutional. And I agree with the letter. Everything you wrote in the letter is something I totally agree with. What I don't agree with is that it happened without the full council. Because I think everybody's got something to, I don't know, I would assume everybody has an opinion on this. So, anyway, and maybe.
Well, Mr. President, if I may, I was under the impression when we discussed this that the attorney for the city said that we needed to be careful on how we worded that to, cover our backs. And I was under the assumption that the city attorney was going to be drafting something up that we would, together as a council, look at and then pass as a resolution from the council. I mean, I kind of see that and the letter that the mayor and the president sent as two different things in my mind.
Well, the letter says everything that the resolution would have said. We received a resolution, and then the resolution was changed to become a letter. It was changed from a resolution to a letter, and that's what was sent. So now it seems like there is no need for a resolution anymore because the letter has already been sent to the governor.
And once again, my understanding 2 weeks ago was everybody was upset because we didn't have one. I was expecting it from the attorney. So the discussion with a recommendation from, are they residents of Little Falls? And so that's I'm sorry, we acted in good faith. You're making it sound like it was a conspiracy
No,
that Brad and I.
I didn't mean
Yes,
it that
you
way
are.
at all.
You made
No.
it sound like Brad and I purposely held back resolutions at the last meeting, so nobody had any say. And that is not anywhere near true. Brad is more honest than that. Me, maybe not so much.
That's not how I meant it. I just,
Right, Council President, if I may, I'll comment, the Coalition of Great Minnesota Cities had a call with the governor a few weeks ago. I was able to attend that, and he spoke a lot to what cities were doing with some of these resolutions, and how he felt input along the way would be a lot better, and that he owned that there probably hasn't been the best interactions between local governments, especially greater Minnesota local governments, on how these orders are, progressing and changing. And everything is happening in different phases, and I think there's opportunities and inputs, and you all as council members, I think, should be welcome to, providing your input of what your constituents are facing. So he was very open to saying, please call my office and share with us what's happening, and give your input about how your communities are reacting and responding to what's going on. Because he said in that call that he really wants to take a regional approach. I mean, there's challenges to that, just the way of how people can move, but we're certainly not facing the same circumstances that are happening in the metro area, not including the civil distress right now that's happening down there. But our conditions are different from that. But that said, we do have impacts in neighboring counties that are seeing things much worse than we are. So yeah, there are some. They are open to receiving input along the way. These things happen not at the best, most convenient times that we can craft resolutions that are meet the expectation and have the input from all of the council behind them. So that's part of the challenge too, is that we're just not going to have this, that his orders and his decisions aren't always going to line up with what our council meetings are going to be. So part of it is how can we be timely in our actions and our input in a way that's going to influence that decision making.
Mr. President, my concern here is, we all have equal vote. Doesn't matter if you're the president, mayor, third ward, or whatever. And I could see what happened here and stuff, but just don't make a habit of it, because otherwise it makes it look like there's a couple people that are making decisions above the rest of the council. And then we also, when you do send something like this, we have to answer to our constituents, and if we're not at least on the know of what's going on, makes us look pretty stupid, and makes it look like the mayor and the president are making decisions without the rest of us. So I understand what happened here, but I think in the future you need to consider this. Call a few people if you have to, get some input, whatever, but don't keep everyone else out of the loop.
Frank, it wasn't a resolution, it was a letter. If you wrote a letter, have you contacted Gazilka without telling me or anybody else? A letter is a letter,
I do.
it's not a resolution.
Anytime, as far as the bike trail net goes, I don't send a letter without it going before the board. I don't do anything like that. So anyway, I understand what you guys did, and I know your natures, and I know I trust you guys. And it's just the other concern I was talking about. Let everyone know. It just makes it a whole lot easier.
And then I gotta tell you, I had a phone call from Congressman Stauber today, so I didn't take notes and I apologize. And I emailed the governor's office 3 times last week. They called me twice, and I got 3 emails. And I've been lobbying for more and more for the cities, been lobbying for the HUD dollars with Congressman Stauber. I've been lobbying for the ethanol plant with Congressman Stauber, and I've been lobbying for the trails with Senator Gazelka. And Mr. Grisha called me today. That's my report.
Rich, don't take it personal. I had no ill intent when I was talking to you. I'm just saying in the future, it'd be kind of nice if we are at least aware of what's going on, if it seems important. But anyway,
Yeah, gotcha.
Mr. President, I understand the concern, but as the mayor has said, this is a personal letter. You know, he didn't affix the council or any of our names to it. So I think the discussion of whether whether we're do it as a council or not, if it's done through a resolution, it may be a different story. The problem I have with doing something like this through a resolution, when you start talking unconstitutional, that's the duty of the Supreme Court. We can all interpret the Constitution in one way or another, but the ultimate people that will make that is the Supreme Court. That's their duty. That's what Article 3 in the Constitution gives the U.S. Supreme Court that power. So I don't know why it's a discussion on whether the mayor sent the letter or not. That's his own personal business. Unless we had put our names to it, then it'd be a different story. But it wasn't a resolution. It was just a letter of concern that he had put together as the mayor of Little Falls. So I don't.
Well, he signs it on behalf of the city council of Little Falls.
City of Little Falls, I believe, is what I have.
It says, on behalf of the city council of the city of Little Falls, is what it says. I just read it right off the letter. So.
Sorry, we could have done those things a little bit better, but I would like to move on to.
And you know, there's room for improvement, and that's why I bring it up. I'm not trying to bash anybody, I'm just saying, you know what, let's do better.
Bid results, public improvement, 383 and 386. Mr. Kimmon.
Good evening. So last Thursday on the 28th, we opened bids for two of our projects. The first one, which is up here on the screen, is for Sunrise 3. With that project, we received 7 bids. The low bid came in from Ryan Contracting out of Elko, New Market, and that bid came in at $852,493. The other bid that we received was for our 2020 petition projects. That is a project, as you know, to turn 7 blocks in the southwest part of Little Falls from gravel to blacktop. The bids came, we got 3 bids for the project. The low bid came from Larson Excavating out of Holdingport in the amount of $879,749. I did speak with the developers in regards to the Sunrise project. They are aware of that, and they are in favor of that project once it was bid. So they are still in favor of that. And you'll see that on the regular agenda, we do have the developers' agreements for that also.
Were those both similar to what you thought they would come in as?
They are both similar to what we thought they would come in at. Yep.
Greg,
Yes,
you worked with Larson before, haven't you?
we have. I think in 2018, Larson had the project in town here. I think it was 8th Street that they did. And then they did another little job over on 5th Avenue Southeast a couple of years back. So yeah, we worked with Larson in the past.
Okay.
I've never worked with Ryan Contracting. They're the ones that are the low bidder on the Sunrise 3 project. They're more down in the cities. Obviously, as you can see by the number of bids that we received, there was quite a lot of interest in that project. But I've got confidence that they'll be able to do the job. I mean, anyone that bids on a project this size and gets bonded for it, they'll be able to do the work.
Any other questions for Greg? Item C, recycling agreement. John?
Thank you, Council President. Just bringing to your attention, did receive a request from our recycling contractor. Their equipment is, was looking at a replacement to the recycling truck, and if he would consider purchasing a new vehicle if his contract expires at the end of 2021, and he would it would be more prudent for him if he was moving forward, with a long extension to that contract by this new equipment. So I wanted to address that to the council, just bring that up and give direction, because I've gotten the sense over, with some of the comments and the work that we've done with our contractor, over the last couple of years, and the changes that we've had to do relative to market influences on recycling, if that was a direction you would be willing to let us proceed with, I got the sense that that is not entirely the case.
That would be my sense as well. Unless somebody thinks something differently.
No, I'm in favor of that.
In favor of extending the contract?
No,
Not extended.
not extended.
And, I guess I don't know why are we thinking of not doing recycling at all, or what?
No, we would, if that were the case, then I think the direction should be, or my recommendation of the direction would be, we redraft the recycling agreement, and then put it out for bids for multiple, potentially multiple haulers. Our contractor isn't the only person in our even our local city that does, curbside recycling pickup, so it's something that I think we could get competitive.
That I would be in favor of. Any other questions or comments? Item D, dining, golf course, clubhouse. John?
Just wanted to bring it up, as the governor's order expired, and now the new one is in place for outdoor dining. The golf course has been preparing for that. They released they're gonna start, with meal service tomorrow, I believe, and see how it goes. They were getting everything prepped and, completed their, COVID preparedness plan and did staff training on that all last week. So it's something that just I wanted to bring to the council's attention. Things at least play on the course has been great. We've been hearing lots of excellent comments from people about the condition of the golf course itself. So that's really positive to be having, that taking place for us. We've been pretty fortunate with the weather and the equipment holding up. Irrigation now is going to be very critical as we're getting hot, and haven't had a lot of rain recently, but they have been holding that together, somewhat. But just wanted to make sure that the council is aware our golf course is going to be open for dining. And the alcohol order, I believe, is now expired, like any other establishment with alcohol can serve. And we didn't have to redefine the premise like we have for other businesses, because the premise was already the entire golf course.
Thank you. Item E, I don't remember what the title was. Didn't print out my newest copy.
That was Walter's property, I believe, Greg.
Correct. Yep.
Something with the sewer system, I believe.
Yeah, and if you want, I can take that one.
Yeah, go
Quickly.
ahead. Why don't you update them on what's happened?
So last year, we constructed the Camp of the Veterans Trail on Lindbergh Drive South, and in that process, Minnesota Power had to relocate one of their poles. And so when they relocated it, they actually moved the pole slightly on private property, and it ended up puncturing the sewer service to Ms. Walters' property. In late March, Mrs. Walters had Roto-Rooter come over there and basically televise her service line to see what was the cause. They noticed that it was crushed, that there was blockage. And so Roto-Rooter came to locate and was going to do a repair or a patch on that service line. Well, as it turns out, the pole was basically right next to where that service line was at. So Minnesota Power held the pole. They initially had the claim from Ms. Walters to pay for the damages of that service line. The Minnesota Power denied the claim. They are indicating that because the city located the service line incorrectly, that they felt that it was the city's fault. Now, because the sewer service from the house all the way to the main is private. We don't mark those when we get the original locates, because we don't know where they're at. They're PVC, we're not able to find out where those are at. So back in 2019, the service line was not marked for Minnesota Power. When Roto-Rooter wanted to dig down to find it, we looked at old drawings to see if we could figure out where it was at. Actually, where our drawings show it, it's about 10 feet from where it actually was at. But Roto-Rooter already had a snake in the pipe, so they could exactly find out where that was at, so that they could minimize what the open cut and the digging excavation was. So we turned it to our insurance company to find out our situation on it. The League of Minnesota Cities, our insurance denied the claim as well, because per the state statute, again, it's a private service line that it is, the excavating company, so in this case it was Minnesota Power's responsibility to coordinate with Mrs. Walters to find out where that service line is at. Our league's insurance adjuster has been trying to coordinate with Minnesota Power to find out where that is at in terms of them to revisit this insurance claim. They've at least sent 2 emails to Minnesota Power with no, I shouldn't say no response, but a response of, we're looking into it. So I don't believe it should be Mrs. Walters' responsibility to pay all of it. I've even offered to Minnesota Power that we would pay up to $3,000 towards this claim, even though we feel it's not our responsibility to pay any of it, but I don't feel Mrs. Walters should pay any of it as well. Looking at the invoice that Roto-Rooter submitted to Mrs. Walters, we got a copy of it. $4,550 is attributed to moving the pole, and $5,500 is attributed to repairing the service line. So we're even offering to pay over half of
Craig, could you repeat those numbers really quick, please?
$5,500 to repair the service, $4,550 to move the pole. And I've even offered up to Minnesota Power that the city would pay $3,000 towards repairing the service, even though it's not the city's fault that it was damaged. So we've been trying to get Minnesota Power to revisit their claim. I'm not sure what we can do as a city. We don't have any contract with Minnesota Power or any leverage, if you will, in terms of getting them to revisit it. I hate to say it, it's kind of up to Mrs. Walters' insurance company to work with Minnesota Power's insurance company to try to get them to look at that claim and settle the claim to get this paid.
Has she made a homeowner's claim?
That I don't know.
Okay, I'm with what you're saying. I agree 100% that she shouldn't be responsible for it, and she darn sure shouldn't be responsible for moving the pole.
True.
I mean, I can't believe Minnesota Power just won't voluntarily eat that. They put the pole in the ground.
Agreed.
Here's where I'm at, Mr. President, and we'll see what kind of concurrence we have. But I think it's something we need to take care of the sewer repair, but maybe that should be, and I'm gonna say maybe, I'm gonna be vague here, I'm kind of thinking out loud, that should be contingent upon, does she have a denial from her own insurance carrier? Because what you said is entirely correct. I mean, they should be the ones subrogating somebody else, whether that's our insurance or Minnesota Power. Her insurance company should take care of her claim and then sort it out later. That's how subrogation works.
Council President, I don't believe that they have submitted a claim to their personal insurance. I know she, just in discussion with her son, they just feel like the city should pay it. And, I told him we would submit it to our insurance. He did not indicate in any way that they had submitted it to their insurance. But we can certainly contact him and ask him to do that.
Mr. President, Greg, so it's the whole $10,000 that they're trying to, make the Walters pay?
So the Walters have paid the full $10,050, yes. And Minnesota Power is claiming that they have no responsibility on any of it, so they have not reimbursed Ms. Walters for anything at this point.
See, the
We
pole
get
was
them-
moved initially because it wasn't a track of the bike trail, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, you know, the bike trail, I hate saying this because I'm on that end too, but the bike trail had to pay expenses on other things, you know, like city services that went over and et cetera. It almost seems like if nothing else comes from this, it's something that maybe should be discussed at the next bike meeting and see if maybe they feel that was part of the trail, that they should be responsible for it. There is a little money left, isn't there, in the city coffer that the bike trail gave you guys to hold on to?
I believe we've requested all of the funds that were spent to date. I think the DNR asked us how much we've spent and if there's gonna be any additional funds. So answer it directly, I don't know if there's any additional funds, but those were originally gonna be put towards 18th Street if there was any funds available. But they were trying to figure out how much was left, if anything at all, and that was last fall, I think, when they asked that question.
Okay, yeah, and I agree, Mrs. Walters shouldn't be responsible for any of it. This isn't something she requested, her service was working well. Because of the bike trail, we moved the pole and MP&L charged $4,000 some odd dollars for that, and then the damage to the, it just doesn't seem that MP&L would push a pole down into the ground unless if they're sure there was nothing under it. I know if I do anything around my property, I have to get everything marked out. And you said you did mark it, but it was in the wrong spot?
That was in 2020. So
Okay.
in 2019, when the pole was being relocated, because we have no way to find out where these sewer services are located at, because they're made out of plastic, we can't find them. And they're not our utility. We generally don't mark those unless they're digging for a sewer to try to, give them an idea where it's at. So it was not marked in 2019. They put the pole in on private property, and then in 2020, when they were trying to figure out where do I dig to fix the sewer, try to give them an idea where about it's at, based on the records that we have, we put the mark on the ground. Turns out it was about 10 feet off, and that's why we don't mark the sewer service, is because one, it's not ours, and number two, our records are not that great, and we have no way of verifying where it's at because it's plastic pipe. We can't figure out where those are always at. So we don't mark those because of that reason, because they're not ours to necessarily locate. So when they put it on private property, they should have at least talked to the owner and say, do you have any idea where this service line goes? Some do and some don't, but they did not make that attempt to discuss it.
Mr. President, has it been explained to her possibly that, and I don't know what her insurance covers, if her homeowners would cover this, but if it does, that if she were to submit that and recover that cost, then what happens is the insurance companies battle with each other. The people that charge the fees to move the pole again and to fix the sewer line, they already got the cash in hand. They're not going to try to give that back or try to claim it through some other insurance or whatever. The homeowner should look at if that's covered under their policy, then submit that claim and then let the insurance companies deal with it.
I think the problem is right now, Mrs. Walters, that's quite the expense for that family. They took a loan out to pay for this. Now they're paying on that, they're paying interest fees and everything, and it's a hardship to the family. So, one way or another, it'd be nice to get this resolved, and I did get a call from Mr. Creshaw. They contacted him, and he said, if we're gonna be putting bike trails in and stuff, we have to come up with a policy to take care of this, or else it's bad PR, that bike trails are just gonna come through, they're gonna damage stuff, and then they're not gonna cover it. So somehow we have to come to some resolve on this, so,
Is it possible that instead of just sending an email or a letter to Minnesota Power, we can contact whoever we work with as a city, who's our contact person, and maybe get a human instead of just a letter? Talk to them about it a little bit, at least to waive the cost of moving the pole the second time?
So Minnesota Power didn't necessarily charge that $45.50 to move the pole. They worked with Roto-Rooter to dig the hole, to move the pole. That's where that $4,550 comes into play. So Roto-Rooter was the one that charged Mrs. Walters to move that pole, that $4,550.
And I would say, Council President, that we did talk to our local contacts with Minnesota Power, and that's how we've kind of gone up the chain, if you will, because the people that we've talked to at the local level, you know, they don't have the authority to authorize, you know, payment to those bills. So that's why we're actually with an attorney with Minnesota Power now.
Mr. President, though, is there any reason why they're not submitting that claim to the homeowner's insurance? I mean, did they look into it and it's not covered, or, I
can
guess I don't...
speculate on an answer for you on that one, since I deal with this every day, not homeowners, but insurance claims. It's because when you're for a lot of people, when you are a negligent-free third party, which these people are a negligent-free third party, they expect to be taken care of. They don't care from who. And I can understand their point of view. I mean, somehow they need to be taken care of.
it just seems odd that Roto-Rooter is charging for a pole being moved that MP&L didn't even charge them, and they're trying to collect, or they collected on it. I can understand why MP&L wouldn't want to dish out $4,000 some to move the pole when they already did the work, and then they have to pay extra money. It doesn't make sense to me.
So in the state of Minnesota, in order to dig, you have to do what's called a Go for State One call, and that takes 48 hours in order for that ticket to be valid. Roto-Rooter had already done the Go for State One call in order to dig the sewer line. If Minnesota Power was to be the one to dig the hole and move that hole, they would have to wait 2 more days in order to get that done. So they worked with, or asked Roto-Rooter to dig the hole, because he had the Go for State One call ticket already, so that they could put the pole in that hole. And then that's where they charged the homeowner that $4,550 to basically work with Minnesota Power to get that hole where it wouldn't impact the sewer service.
Man, is this convoluted.
Kind of a mess. So what do we do from here?
So I think what I'm hearing is talk with Mrs. Walters or her son in regards to the insurance claim with their homeowner's insurance, to have them work with Minnesota Power, their insurance company, to get this squared away.
Mr. President, I believe that would be the first step. I don't know, you know, again, maybe that isn't covered under their policy, I don't know. But I think that would be the first place to look anyhow. And her insurance company may deny it too, because there's some other reason beyond what they would have to, are required to pay out, so.
Mr. President and Council, I would just caution you that, as one of the councilmen noted already, that if you start paying these out without a specific policy in place, you could potentially have them be found to set a policy by just doing it. And so I would just caution you before moving forward to really consider how you want to deal with all things like this, specifically because it is connected to that bike trail.
But we could go ahead and see if they can do something with their insurance company, correct?
Correct.
I was wondering if, Department of Natural Resources, trails and park system, if they have an insurance in place when they run these bike trails through, that would cover any kind of damage that would be done. It doesn't seem like it would make sense running trails all over the place and not having some kind of insurance, so maybe we'd also get a hold of the DNR and see if they have something in place there too to take care of this.
I can tell you for a sum this small, every entity involved except for the resident, due to any deductibles, is basically gonna be self-insured for this.
Is that enough, Mr. Kimmen, Craig? For,
Yes, Mr. President?
for now? Thank you.
Yes.
Any other items? Any constituent messages?
Yes, Mr. President, I've had a couple of people, and I don't know if this is a city thing other than maybe treating it as we would a resident, but I had some people complain about a cemetery in town where the lawn isn't, where nothing's mowed and nothing is taken care of. I don't know, can the city submit a letter like they do to residents when they don't mow their lawns to these associations and hold them accountable if the city has to go in there and mow that, or, I'm just trying to get some answers that I can give some feedback to the people that brought this to my attention.
Yeah, so if I can answer that. So the cemeteries would fall underneath the same ordinance as far as tall grass, as other properties. So if you let me know afterwards where that location is at, we can take a look at it and see if it does meet that tall grass, and we can send them a letter. This actually, a couple days ago or late last week, we sent out quite a number of letters to folks in regards to tall grass. So it's getting that time of the year. We had some rain. We're starting to get the hot weather. Grass is going to start growing pretty fast here. So yes, it's something that we can do.
All right, I'll send you something, Greg, then, and let you know which one.
Excuse me, Council President, I think I know which cemetery this is. We've had several complaints, not only on the tall grass, but the garbage and the condition of the cemetery. So I will talk with Greg afterwards, about that.
Is that Lori speaking there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. President, I have something to address to Greg. Greg, did you find out if it was legal for that business on the west side to put in the big storage box at the old Doc's Auto Place?
I did not find that out yet. I will take a look.
Yeah, the residents are kind of upset about that. They're under the impression that storage boxes or big semis that you cut the semi boxes that you cut the wheels off, you shouldn't be in town. But anyway, check into that, please.
Yep, I will definitely do that.
Anyone else? Then we'll adjourn our meeting at 7:15 until our regular city council meeting at 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you.